She is one of the hidden gems of American literature. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I am Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we're here with this week's review. Dalton, tell them what we're hitting this time.
This week we are going to do someone that we have never done before. This is Flannery O'Connor. A good man is hard to find.
Yes. So we will be back with 6 good things, 6 bad things, quotes, full literary analysis, a rating, and a recommendation after the bump.
Okay. Start with our good things and our bad things?
Yes.
Okay. Give me good.
1, boy is grandma fun to watch,
Okay.
right? 2, the misfit is one of these antagonists with an ambiguous amount of culpability, which is always something that is more fun for a reader than somebody that's just the bad guy.
Okay.
Right? 3, it is interesting to get an authentic family portrait through the eyes of an ostracized member.
Okay. Good things. This is a great example of dialogue, especially the use of Southern dialect within a dialogue. We don't talk a lot about dialect, but this is captured beautifully here. Really sets the piece. The contrast between the grandmother and the misfit is great, and both characters are necessary to have a balance. There's a lot of talk of balance in this piece, and I think those two characters equal each other out. And the terror of this piece is in the unknown. What actually happens in the woods? And we're going to talk a little bit about the woods and what the woods mean in American literature especially.
Okay. 6 bad things. 3 from you, 3 from me. What are your 3?
Okay, for this story to work, you must believe that this is the most unlucky family ever. It's a little far-fetched that these events would happen, but we can try to suspend disbelief there. Both the misfit and the grandmother are so extreme in this piece that in contrast to other characters, it makes them very unbelievable. We'll fight it. And so much happens in a short period of time with this that sometimes it's hard to follow along. A lot of action going on in this. Could have been longer.
Right. For me, number 1 is that this story is telestrated from the first paragraph. And you can mention the misfit in that first paragraph if you throw in so much as a mention of a landslide in Florida.
Okay.
Something like that. Then the reader is not so fixated on it immediately, and you get a little bit more elements of surprise later. Number 2, the children are cardboard and their ages are tricky.
Okay.
Or maybe this is just because I don't know any children. And number 3, the misfits' henchmen are cardboard. And I don't think the story really loses much because of those things. But it would always it could profit from less cardboardedness, right?
I brought with me, this is something we got from our mega book haul at the library. This is literature in introduction.
Yes.
An introduction in like 12, almost 2,000 pages. This actually has the entire text of Frankenstein in it.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't notice until I cracked it open. But I do have a couple quotes. Would you like to start?
Sure. I have 2 quotes from... I have 50 Great Short Stories edited by Milton Crane. So on page 239 of my edition here, "Lady," the man said to the children's mother, "would you mind calling them children to sit down by you? Children make me nervous. I want all you to sit down right there together where you're at." And that is from The Misfit, right?
It's a very humanizing quote.
Yes. "Children make me nervous. You wouldn't shoot a lady, would you?" the grandmother said, and removed a clean handkerchief from her cuff and began to slap her eyes with it. The misfit pointed the toe of his shoe into the ground and made a little hole, and then covered it up again. "I would hate to have to," he said. And then I got one more from 245 here. "She would have been a good woman," the misfit said, "if it had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life."
Look at that. I do have 2 as well. I'm not going to get page numbers. It's irrelevant. Nobody bought this book. I found out the crime don't matter. You can do one thing or you can do another. Kill a man or take a tire off his car. But sooner or later, you're going to forget what it was you done and just be punished for it. Very good quote. This is my first Flannery O'Connor, by the way.
Yeah.
So this was good for me.
This was my first Flannery O'Connor as well. But you had another quote?
We're going to use the title quote here. "A good man is hard to find," Red Sammy said. "Everything is getting terrible. I remember the day when you could go off and leave your screen door unlatched. Not no more." We're going to use that because that is me. I still use leave my doors unlatched. Anyway, where would you like to start with this? Because there is a lot we can talk about in this piece.
Where would you? Is there any place you would like to start?
Do we want to start with the big question that stems from this work?
What's that?
Why did the grandmother touch him?
What do you mean?
The grandmother, right before she dies,
Yeah.
reaches out and touches the misfit. That seems to be the big argument. I did a little bit of research about this, why she reached out and touched him, because it does change the piece, however you want to take it.
I thought it was just one of those Southern things. Like I worked with some, I've worked with people who we're in Missouri, so questionably we're Southern, right? Women who consider themselves Southern, oh, baby child, right?
Yes.
It's one of these things. It's just what you do.
Is it that? Is it that, or is it that? Is she reaching out because she's hopefully just trying to stop him? Is she trying to stop him? Is she just having that Southern lady about her because that's what she is billed as in this piece?
I don't see any reason to believe that.
No?
Do you have some... Okay, well, go on.
I figure that'd just be a good dialogue to get into with this, because that seems to be what changes that piece, because it seems you become yourself when threatened. At this point, this grandmother is no longer the facade that she's been trying to put on. She's not trying to be a Southern lady. She's either reaching out in defense, she's reaching out to touch this gentleman to hopefully stop this. Maybe she's reaching out to humanize him, because it's harder to kill somebody if you're close to him.
Well, she's not all there, right?
She's not all there.
In fact, the husband, her son's shirt, he puts her son's shirt on after he's killed. And she says, that shirt looks familiar. Yes. I know that shirt. Yes. You're one of my children.
So does she know what's going on? Is she reaching out to touch her child?
She's reaching out to touch her child because she thinks it's one of these comfort things.
Okay.
I don't see any... It's like what is it? The Killers. Remember The Killers we read? Now, a lot has been made about the passage of time in that short story. And there was a bit of criticism written that they thought he was trying to work relativity in.
Okay.
The theory of relativity into Hemingway's short story. Utterly uncompelling.
Okay.
So I think that this is one of those things where someone has seen a sentence in here and thought, I never really looked at that closely. Okay. Maybe I could write a paper on it.
Let's give a bit of a quote right before we get that final shot. Okay. Jesus was the only one that ever raised the dead, the misfit continued, and he shouldn't have done it. He'd thrown everything off balance. If he did what he said, then it's nothing for you to do but throw away everything and follow him. And if he didn't, then it's nothing for you to enjoy but the few minutes you got left the best way you can. By killing somebody or burning down his house or doing some other meanness to him. No pleasure but meanness, he said. His voice had become almost a snarl. At this point is when the grandmother reaches out and tries to touch him. Is she trying to bring him back at that point and pull him away from this, to show him that kindness, to show him that pleasure in life, and just to stop this from happening?
I don't think she's trying to stop this. I don't think she really understands what she tells him not to. You wouldn't shoot a woman, would you?
Okay.
So she knows that much is going on, but she's also enough out there moment to moment that she's, as soon as her son is dragged off,
yes,
she then thinks that he is her son.
Okay.
Right. So not probably in story time, not 5 minutes past.
Okay.
But this seems to be one of those things. Okay, if you come to me and you're speaking in that fashion, even I, my first thing's, hey, you all right, bud? Right?
If I show up speaking in that that dialect, but that beautifully, something's wrong.
What was that again, Dalton? Say it again.
Don't take the blue acid. It's bad for you. What would you like to talk about with this piece? That was something I really would like to question about this. That seemed to be where a lot of the literary criticism came from. This was that moment there. Okay. But it would drop something else on me.
Okay, so the deaths.
Okay.
Her family's deaths. They are left unseen, yes?
Yes.
And we don't know that her son, that the dad figure in this, has died.
Correct.
Until his shirt's brought back.
Yes.
Right?
And at that point, it's still implied. It's an implied death.
Yeah. Look, we never see the bloody body.
Correct.
But there's a few things that go into this. But here's how nasty it really is. We know that father is killed.
Okay.
We hear the mother scream before she's shot.
Yes.
And then there's 2 shots for the children.
Yes.
And we see the grandma killed, right?
Yes.
There's one more person there.
Who else is there?
There's that baby.
Oh, okay.
We never hear the baby get shot.
Oh, that's diabolical.
That's diabolical. Why not shoot the baby? That baby ain't going to tell on you.
Very
that
true.
Baby's not telling the cops they went that away.
Very true.
Don't waste the bullet on the baby. That baby's going to die anyway. No mother to feed from, that baby's dead anyway.
Yes.
That baby might be dead from a wolf right now.
Yes.
Right? So that is one of these little things that's in here that really gives you an in to how mean and how nasty and how bad these guys really are.
Absolutely. That makes the character all the more sinister, and that did not dawn on me.
Yeah.
So good for that. Good pickup there.
When the Misfit shows up, he does not have a shirt. Why?
They had just escaped. They ditched their clothes.
But he's not wearing prisoner's pants.
Okay, so he's done this before, possibly?
Wearing clothes with bullet holes and bloodstains may make you look pretty guilty, right?
Okay.
So this is probably someone he shot in the chest, right?
Yes.
He's got the pants, he's got the shoes, he's got the socks. He does not have the shirt. So these are small little nods that Flannery O'Connor was talented enough to know to put in there for us, right? And these are the things of literature. These are things which make a, what is this, 10-page short story?
That's very short.
That make a 10-page short story so much deeper than what we really get to see into it. We have to bring these things out.
Okay. Now, I found it very interesting that the Misfit sends someone else to do his killing. The only person the Misfit takes out is the grandmother. But everybody else, it's very simple, go do this for me. So that shows a sense of control over the Misfit, but that also gives us the ambiance of the woods. Now, we've talked a little bit about the woods before, and especially the woods in American fiction.
Yes.
But the woods are a bad place to be.
Yes.
Nothing good comes from the woods. At this point in time, this was a little bit more modern than, let's say, Young Goodman Brown era. But still, at this time, if you go into the woods, that is not good for you. You're getting away from civilization. You're in an area where you are more threatened and are more likely to suffer and die.
Right.
So I do find it interesting that the choice is made and very clearly stated, take him to the woods to take him out. Not only does this add a sense of terror and horror where we do not actually witness the killing. We don't see the monster. They're taken away and we're given the gunshot. It's implied that they've died. It's implied they've been shot, but we don't know for sure what happened. We don't get the suffering, which makes it just all the more horrifying, in my opinion. However, the Misfit, the only person that he does shoot is the grandmother.
Yeah.
What can be drawn out of that, do you think?
I think it can be drawn out that, like most crime bosses, I mean, that's how this sounds, right? This is a crime boss at this point.
Very much so.
He doesn't have to do his work, because if you don't do it for him, you're dead too.
Yes.
Right? So what that says to me is it necessarily, obviously, states the hierarchy of what's going on there. But at the same time, there is nothing in there to detract from his villainy, is there?
No. Now, up until the point that you said that they didn't shoot the baby, and that's clearly the most villainous thing about this, I had read into the fact that if you want something done right, do it yourself. The children are hard to shoot, yes. The father and the mother are hard to shoot, yes. But the grandmother, the one who is civil, who is having the conversation, who is giving you that human touch, who is humanizing your actions and trying to bring you back into reality, that's the difficulty. That's the one that you're going to remember more than any. It would be agreed that these people have probably killed children before. This doesn't seem to be an issue to them. But for the boss, for lack of better terms, to say he's going to be the one who takes the hard shot, I think it makes his character all the stronger.
So you think that the begging is what makes it the hard shot?
I think so.
Do we know those other characters didn't beg?
No, we don't. But once they have left our sight as a reader, they're done. They are dead at that point. As the reader, we are not given that begging scene. We're not giving the dialogue between them.
Well, we're also not given the fact that the baby wasn't shot. We're also not given the fact that the Misfit must have shot someone in the chest, and that's why he didn't have a shirt.
Correct.
Because he obviously wanted a shirt, or he
Yes.
would have taken the father's. So I don't know necessarily that... I think the reason that the Misfit takes the grandmother is because they're so close, right? Neither one of them is 100% there.
Okay.
Right? You have people, the two henchmen seem to be sane, if nothing else.
Yes.
They shoot the mother and the father and the children who are all sane.
Yes. And for the Misfit to be flawed, for the grandmother to be flawed, but for them to be so different of extremes, where the Misfit is literally a social pariah. He is a villain, the quintessential villain. And the grandmother still has this idea of this southern lady, the formalities behind being a southern woman. At this time, could you agree with that? That creates that balance. So I think it is great to have the one character who is the half the balance be the one to snuff out the other. It gives a little bit more to this piece than it just being, well, he took the grandmother into the woods and the father pleaded. So
Right. I think also, though, what you're looking at is you're looking at the two bad guys.
Okay.
Doesn't the grandmother start the story off as the conniving bad guy?
Yes.
Well, I want to go to Tennessee. I don't want to go to Florida.
And there is that aspect of it as well, which is a very relatable human aspect, is, they're going on this side adventure, which the grandmother realizes, whoops.
Yeah.
So you're seeing somebody who is very vulnerable, who is starting to lose that mental capacity. Things aren't firing the way they used to be. That's relatable to the reader. Everybody has gone through that with someone at some point in time, or somebody who's dealt with something
Everyone's
like that.
done that driving to work in the morning, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
I'm going to stop at this Quick Trip over here. Oh, there's no Quick Trip
Where'd
there.
it go?
Right.
That happened to me actually once. Hardee's downtown. I was going to get Hardee's, Carl's Jr., wherever you are. They tore it down. And I thought I had lost my mind. I drove around for like 30 minutes. I'm like, it's supposed to be here. I just didn't click for me. What else would you like to talk about with this piece here?
Well, let's talk about the title a little bit.
Okay.
A good man is hard to find.
Okay.
Does that mean that a bad man is easy to find?
Possibly so.
And who's the instigator here? Who's the instigator with this whole story?
Would you say the grandmother?
The grandmother's the instigator here.
Yes.
So we're not talking about a bad man, we're talking about a bad woman to start. Is a good woman easy to find? Right? So
Okay.
I think the questions inherent to the statement, a good man is hard to find, channel your Derrida, right? What does that not say, but makes it saying it? A good man is hard to find doesn't say that a bad man is easy to find.
Okay.
But it does mean that, doesn't it?
Now, if you take it at your base level, this could be very much a comment on the change in times. That quote that I gave you earlier from Red, a good man is hard to find, used to be able to leave the door unlatched, can't do that anymore.
Right.
Even today, that feels true, which gives this piece a good longevity. People are always talking about, 10 years ago, no big deal, we used to leave the car unlocked, can't do that anymore.
Which is all bullshit, by the way. Anyone who's ever said that,
yes,
it's all bullshit.
So this is just as true as it once was, though. This is always that thought that's in the back of your mind. Oh, remembering the golden years, when things were nicer, where the milkman used to bring the milk and we'd go play in the streets until the street lamps went out.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore. Wish you could, but you can't because people are bad now.
And what does the grandmother have a conversation with the misfit about?
They speak about Jesus.
They speak about Jesus and they speak about the good old days, don't they?
They do. Yes, they do.
Well, this bad man believes in the good old days, doesn't he?
He does believe in the good old days, which is ironic.
And this bad man seems to know an awful lot about the ways of Jesus, doesn't he?
Seems to be ironic.
Yeah.
So there is a lot that can be drawn out for that there, which, is going to strengthen my argument from months ago. This is why I don't lock my door. If somebody's going to steal something, they're going to steal something. I'd rather not pay for the door. You're welcome.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to go over?
I talked a little bit about the mythos of the woods. Have we talked about dialect a little bit? This is the first piece, arguably, I think, of Southern literature. Would you classify this as Southern?
This is Southern Gothic.
Southern
sure,
Gothic.
yeah.
This is the first time we've really gone into that. But what makes it Southern Gothic? That dialect, which is very hard to read for a quote. I was trying to read from The Misfit. I'm like, oh, God. It is hard to read, but it gives it that ambiance. It's very much that scene setting that takes you into this. Now, this week we were also going to read Mark Twain as well, but we will not have Mark Twain this week due to a series of circumstance. Mark Twain is a master of that.
Yes.
So we were reading this alongside Mark Twain. So maybe that's what it's just seeped over, as much as I hate Mark Twain.
So what were some of the Southern markers that you picked up on? I'm interested to see what they were to you.
Pick up my quote here. Well, first of all, you have the family road trip. You have the Southern lady. But if we can read this, we'll go back to the Jesus quote. Jesus was the only one that ever raised the dead, the misfit continued. And he shouldn't have done it. He thrown everything off balance. That is a very simple choice by the writer. Instead of saying he threw everything off balance, that takes you away from that and makes the character more three-dimensional. This gives the character a time period. This gives the character a location. That makes it that Southern literature. It's just that little draw.
Yeah.
Dalton on Movie Channel as compared to Book Channel. That Southern draw.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Okay, just making sure. But is that more endearing as well? Because when you think of the South, the good homely South, nothing goes wrong. Everybody's more pleasant. It's a very low-key, slow-paced environment. For something like this to happen makes it a little more tragic, does it not?
Sure does.
So I think it is wonderful that it's put in there. It works.
Instead of live fast and leave a beautiful corpse. I mean, that's not the Southern tradition, right?
No.
The things I picked up on, first off, you have some blatant yet casual racism early in the piece, right?
Yes, you do.
Which means that the character is not aware that they are being racist, right?
Yes.
This is just a fact of life.
This is part of life at this area.
You've got the word gnome.
Didn't do it. Don't look at it. Stop it.
No man becomes gnome.
Gnome.
Right?
Yes.
No. Another thing that I picked up on, characters' names.
Okay.
John Wesley.
Okay.
June Starr.
June
Bobby
Starr
Lee.
is a terrible name.
Bobby Lee, right? So you've got a first and a middle name, right?
Yes.
So those are things that I picked up on. But one thing that, you read that quote again, and it got me thinking while you were talking.
Okay, here we
because
go.
I wasn't paying attention to you. You got me thinking, boy. Jesus raising the dead. This goes back to your argument earlier.
Okay.
Perhaps I'm putting this into the Bible and it's not in there, and I'm taking this from depictions of Jesus performing miracles as opposed to what's in the Bible. How does Jesus raise someone from the dead? Tell me.
Okay. Laying on hands?
Yeah.
Okay.
Touching.
Okay.
Right?
So what's the grandmother? Is she touching?
Is she trying to raise him from the dead?
Is she trying to resurrect him? Is she trying to bring him back?
Yeah.
See, I told you it's there. We just got to read into it.
You talked about your criticism. Was that in your criticism?
No, it wasn't.
Came across? Well,
see, that is what I'm here for. I'm here to just generate a dialogue, which you will find good ideas from. Just don't listen to my ideas. They're bullshit. But no, that is interesting. There is a lot that can be drawn from it there, and maybe that is where the literary arguments, the criticism come from that scene.
right.
Let's talk about a little bit more of a basic analysis here, because we do sometimes go a little deep into the literary analysis. And a lot of people who are watching this are maybe reading this for the first time, they're in their early years of college. Use of foreshadow here is wonderful. There's a lot of foreshadowing that leads up to this, that is done in a way that it is believable, and it's a smooth transition.
Well, in Flannery O'Connor, I was just having a conversation with Ian that I went to grad school with about this, is a master of telling you what she's going to do.
Okay.
And then doing it, but you didn't see it coming anyway.
Okay.
Right? You read this, in that first paragraph, they mention the misfit, and he's dangerous.
Yes.
Right?
The misfit's dangerous. A good man's hard to find.
And you think, oh, well, they're going to run into the misfit.
Yes.
But then you realize, no, they're not going to run into the misfit. And then they do.
Okay.
Right.
But how is that accomplished? Through a writerhood, to set up that foreshadowing, to literally feed your audience the plot, and then throw them completely off. Is that just the mastery of Flannery O'Connor?
Well, and see, I think that this one was a little heavy-handed because, like I said, you throw in a line about there being a mudslide in Florida.
Yeah.
That's another reason you don't want to go there, right? Then you've done it a little more slick. But that's I don't understand how she throws it out there so blatant and it gets you anyway.
It's good.
Like, if it were my short story, I'd be thinking, boy, that's just too broad. I got to come back and put a little another pen stroke in there.
And like I said, this was my first O'Connor. I think I need to read some more. I really enjoyed this piece. I would like to see if this holds true in other works by her.
She's good.
Okay.
Very good.
Now, what would you rate this
No,
piece?
one more thing
Do you
to
have more?
talk about real quick. What is the point of this story?
What is the point?
Yes.
I don't know. The way I read this piece, this is taking a good old Southern Gothic where you usually are going to get some moralistic, tongue-in-cheek, subtle humor, and just flipping it on its head.
Flipping on its head how?
There is not...
This is not funny to you.
I don't...
There's humor all throughout this.
Is it funny on the surface level? Yes. Is this... I'm going to get into Poplet here. Is this grandmother... Did Janet Ivanovich steal this for the Stephanie Plum series? You bet your ass. That is absolutely the grandmother. Look at that broad spectrum.
You're over my head with
I am
Janet
broad
Ivanovich,
spectrum.
so.
If you've read Janet Ivanovich, which I know you have, the grandmother in this and the grandmother in Flannery O'Connor, there's some inspiration there.
You had a little bit of aristocrat sneak into your voice there.
Excuse me.
I know you have.
Excuse me. Maybe it's just the Southern Gothic. But anyway, there are some good elements at play here, but this doesn't feel like that Mark Twain Southern literature where everything works out in the end and it's a good laugh.
I think you're misreading some Mark Twain as well.
I don't like Mark Twain. Mark Twain's terrible.
A good man is hard to find,
Okay.
right? A good man is hard to find, but she would have been a good woman, the misfit said, if it had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life. If there was someone there to shoot you every minute of your life, you'd be a lot better of a person, wouldn't you?
There's humor, but that's also coming from someone who's about ready to shoot you.
Right, but how does that become moralistic without being propaganda? Right? We've had a lot of discussions on this channel. The loner.
Okay.
It was propaganda.
Okay.
There's no art there. Okay. It was awful.
All right. You just wanted to bring that back up, didn't you?
Is artistic.
Okay.
So I wonder where that slick sleight of hand comes from, right?
Slick sleight of hand. I just want to do this because people are like, oh, look, alien hands. Anyway, what would you rate this? What would you give it?
I would give this 92 June stars out of 100.
I'm right along with you. I will give this 90 shots to the head. This was a good piece. I enjoyed it. I'm disappointed I haven't read Flannery O'Connor sooner.
Yeah, I felt the very same the first time I ever read any Flannery O'Connor. It's one of those things you just take a step back and you're like, where have I been?
Yep.
What has happened?
What would you recommend?
Speaking of that, Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been by Joyce Carol Oates.
Ooh, not like we're planning to read that anytime soon.
Well, it's another one of those antagonists with an ambiguous amount of culpability.
Okay.
Right? You don't know how in control the misfit really is.
Okay.
Right? The misfit might not be culpable for any of the stuff he's doing. He might just not be there. Right? What about you?
I mentioned this earlier. If you want to get into the mythos of the woods, Young Goodman Brown. I think that's a good read. It's good classic literature as well.
It is not a good read.
Oh, shut up. It's a good read. Anyway, if you
You hated that all throughout college.
If you like this kind of thing, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. We do this quite often. Maybe we'll do some Joyce Carol Oates in the near future. Who knows?
Make sure you follow us on Twitter @StripCover and on Facebook @StripCoverLit.